Why did you happen to go there, Sulphur Springs?
Well, Sulphur Springs is a big dairy area, and my wife's uncle, Gary Molson, he came out here about 16, 17 years ago for work, and worked for Borden's. They make cottage cheese and so forth, and of course we traveled to see family. Everybody, every spring break, we go to Florida. We always went to Texas, and if you haven't been to Texas, it is a gorgeous state. There's everything you want. You got desert, you got coastal, you got mountains, you got hills, prairie. It's just a combination of things.
And no state tax, sales tax.
There you go.
How'd you get there?
Well, we flew this time, and flew to Dallas.
Did they take pictures of you naked?
Taking pictures of me of what?
Naked.
Why would they do that?
They've got a funny machine that takes all your clothes off for a picture.
Oh, they just zing right through me. They left the clothes on. We didn't want to scare the children.
Well, they ignored the kids.
Yeah. But anyways, but it's a lot of people don't realize how nice it is here, and the weather is interesting. Like in the mornings, it'll be the mid 40s. By afternoon, it'll jump 30 degrees in blue skies. And, I didn't realize how many cardinals are down here, the bird, and just swarms of them. It's great.
Yeah, well, it sounds like a beautiful spot, and I thank you for calling in. And
all right.
Will you be here next week?
I'll give you a shout next week from my phone. You're not going to be there, though, right?
I'm going to be far, far away, sailing the bounding seas.
Who's going to be? Jim going to be there, or Chris?
Next week, Chris, and then the week after, Jim. Jim
All right, well, I'll be back the following time, but I'll give a call next week to Chris.
Okay, well, thank you very much, and you have a great trip down there, and it's just good to hear your cheerful voice.
Well, to all our viewers, we'll see you next time. Thanks.
Okay, great.
This is Doc signing off from Texas. Bye-bye.
Doc Hamels doing the job
Bye-bye.
in Texas. Have you ever been to Texas?
I have not.
I was there once, and no, more than once. I had to travel through it several times, and it is pretty impressive. They have the best barbecue.
Do they?
Yeah. Barbecue.
I know it's quite large.
Yeah, and then we don't have to eat, seniors, since they're not getting their cola, this is what they're going to be eating, cat food.
Cat food?
Cat food. Like they did during the Depressions, during the Great Depression, and they'll be living in their children's basement, probably, because seniors will have 50% of their purchasing power in the last 8 years.
Wow.
And now there's no cola at all. And they can't go off and get a second job. Or it's just, who's going to hire an 85-year-old man anyways, crippled to death with arthritis? So they have no way of recouping the income. So they just go more and more. You see that? You've seen the houses for sale. A lot of seniors, more and more.
An awful lot of homes for sale in the community.
That's a sad affair. Now back to your business, though. You're a trained lawyer, I assume.
I am. Yes, admitted to practice in 1993.
Uh-huh. And how long have you been DA now? Seems like forever. But
sometimes it does. No, I'm joking. I was elected in November of 2005 and was reelected in November of 2009. So I'm in the second year of my second term.
Well, your predecessor is going to be doing the program in 2 weeks.
He does a very nice job.
He's terrific. Jim Subjack, he does a good job. He's practicing over in Fredonia, I noticed. Where do you practice? Do you have a law practice?
I don't any longer.
I
did originally. It was my family's firm. My grandfather was an attorney, and so was my father. It was out of the city of Dunkirk, Foley, and Passifero.
Okay. And so now you're just strictly DA. That takes enough of your time, doesn't it? How many people?
It's a full-time job.
Yeah. How many people do you have to supervise over there?
I have 10 assistant district attorneys. I have now 5 secretaries, 1 investigator. I have 2 victims assistants. So it's around 20.
20 people.
Yeah.
Well, that's a busy time. How's business?
Well, we're not wanting for business, that's for sure. It's one area that is kept up. We're averaging somewhere around 7,000 to 7,400 cases per year that we open in Chautauqua County.
Most of them plea out?
Oh yes, most plea out. I mean, the system isn't designed to have every case go to trial. You just can't, and really you have to take a look at every case and try to serve justice. I mean, that's what our job is. And fortunately, we have I think a very good defense bar, and most times we're able to work things out. You look at cases. Sometimes you're trying to cut, a break to an individual depending upon their criminal history, and sometimes you say, well, this person just doesn't deserve a break.
Yeah. Well, do you have, of course, one of your, I guess you didn't prosecute the kid that was running around impregnating little children who had HIV.
Newshawn Williams.
Newshawn Williams.
That was originally Jim Subject's
Uh-huh.
prosecution. He has been back recently because, of course, they're looking to commit him civilly.
Now, what's that mean?
Well, under the public health law now, you are allowed for certain individuals that commit crimes to have them civilly confined after they serve their state prison term because they present a danger to the community. Those prosecutions are conducted by the Attorney General's office, but it did overspill into the county a little bit. He brought a motion to vacate his plea in front of John Ward a few weeks ago, and that was denied. So we did have to get re-involved with the case.
Yeah, so it goes on and on. Of course, having a guy like that running loose is pretty scary.
Well, it is, and I think that's the reason why New York State is looking at having him civilly confined.
Yeah. Any other big cases coming up?
We're scheduled to draw a jury on the Jason Wells case at the end of March. That's the case stemming out of the One Temple Square in Fredonia from last February, where Jason Wells was a 38-year-old male who killed a 82-year-old woman there.
Yeah.
Unfortunate, tragic sort of event. So we indicted him almost immediately, and we're scheduled right now to pick the jury. Unsure whether or not that's going to happen. Obviously, there's some mental issues involved as well.
Uh-huh. He might be off the wall, huh? Who knows? Well, if you are, let's say this way, there has been just news, as I mentioned, that the county exec Greg is going to be cutting back on services. Is that going to hurt you?
Well, I mean, it potentially could. I've worked with Greg right along trying to cut my budget. For example, we've almost cut the secretarial staff in half over the last 4 or 5 years. We've lost 3 secretaries.
What do you do for secretaries?
Well, you know, unfortunately, everyone has to sort of bear the burden that is there, and it becomes difficult because we operate under certain timelines.
Yeah, and you have a lot of paperwork.
A lot of paperwork. We have to open files. We have to send out notices. It's a busy place, and like I said, and Mort had mentioned at the beginning, because of the socioeconomic factors that are going on here, people losing jobs, you know, our crime rate here, although isn't climbing, you know, at a staggering rate, every year goes up, or averages. When I first became DA, we were averaging somewhere around 64 to 6,600 cases. Now we've, since my second year, have not dropped below 7,000.
So you are up quite a bit.
Up quite a
Budget's
bit.
cut back. Now,
Budget's cut back.
How do you function in a situation like this?
Well, it can be difficult. I mean, you
Yeah.
need to try your very best to manage the cases. You go back to situations where you talk about plea and plea bargaining. The courts can't handle the load. Certainly my office can't handle the load. Public Defender's Office, you are looking at, you know, it's almost like a MASH unit. You know, you go in there and you make decisions, and you have to make them quickly, and sometimes you need to make them properly, and hopefully you're making the right decision.
We'll talk about that. We got a couple of calls. You want to take a call?
Absolutely.
Hey, caller, good morning. Thank you for waiting.
Thank you. I have a question for the attorney.
Okay.
Am I speaking to Dave now?
Yes, you are.
I can hear you.
Okay. We're in tough economic times, and I was wondering if you, as the important person in this county, have ways to maybe in law enforcement that we might cut expensive, consolidating or changing in some way, because we are in an economic crunch. I wonder if Dave could enlighten us on his views on this particular problem we're having.
Well, sure. I mean, I don't really have any direct power to change it particularly, except for I am responsible for my own office. I mean, I have my own personal beliefs on consolidation. I mean, I think we are a state and a community and a county that runs the way it did probably 50 or 60 years ago. And with modern technology, I think we certainly need to be looking at consolidating our governments a little bit, because there's no reason, given technology of today, that we can't provide the same services without the duplication. You have villages and you have towns and you have counties, and all of these things are duplicating services to a certain degree. It would seem to me that you should be able to consolidate that. You should be able to do that to a certain degree in law enforcement as well. Unfortunately, I can't sit here and say to you what the answer is. I think that if we look at other states have a tendency to run their governments more from a county level and less on a smaller municipal level. And whether or not that's the key, it very well may be. Other states have county-run school districts, for example. Is that something we should be looking at? The problem is, like, you have a situation in Fredonia, and my kids go to Fredonia, a few years ago, where they actually put it to a vote where Brockton and Fredonia would merge, and it was defeated. So, people don't want to lose their identities, but at the same time, by having separate school districts, there has to be some waste of money there. So it's going to take everyone to understand that maybe it's time that we look at consolidating these things, and that would include law enforcement as well.
Westfield and Ripley, too. We had the same turn down on the consolidation.
That's correct. And those are two schools like Fredonia and Brockton. There's just no reason why those two schools couldn't be run together. They're just, neither one of them are that large like Westfield and Ripley that it couldn't be one school.
There you go. Caller, does that help?
Yeah, I understand what he's saying, and it's a difficult time. I do want to say that I feel that our present person in this case, Dave, is doing a great job in every way I can understand, and so keep up the good work.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, caller. Send me a stamped
Bye.
envelope. I'll send a self-addressed stamped envelope. I'll give you $5 off twice at the Lakeview, that lovely little restaurant at the foot of the hill in Mayville, New York. Great
Okay,
fish
bye-bye.
fry. Great fish fry and a salad bar. Oh. We're sitting here talking with Dave Foley, and the phones are open at this time. Anybody wants to call in and ask him a question about the prosecutions or the management of our criminal element in terms of court, he's here to answer your question. I wanted to ask you about one thing we mentioned a couple of times, you have and I have, is a plea bargain. This seems to be the coin of the realm in terms of law for the prosecution in most places. Now, what is this? What's that all about?
Well, by law, my sworn obligation is to serve justice. So when we look at a case, we're going to look at a myriad of factors. Number one, you're going to look at the case you have in front of you and determine whether or not you feel you can be successful in the prosecution. Second of all, you look at the type of case it is. Is it a property crime? Is it a violent crime against an individual? And that will dictate how we proceed. Then, of course, you look at the individual who's alleged to have committed it, and you look at their criminal history to see whether or not they have a history, and you make a determination as to what would be the best route for that person to go. And you make plea offers based upon how you think the outcome should go. For example, Ralph Bucky Phillips, obviously we weren't going to offer any sort of plea at all, except he needed to be held responsible for committing the acts that he committed in this county.
He killed some cops, didn't he?
He killed one police officer, shot two others. So, you look at those sorts of crimes, the homicide over in Fredonia, we're going to try that absent a plea on that because of just the egregiousness of it. However, there have been some homicides that we've offered reductions on, just based upon the cases that we have in front of us.
Okay, we'll talk a little more about that. We got a call. You want to take a call?
Sure.
Another caller? Morning, caller. Thank you for waiting. Hello?
Hello, yes.
Yeah, thanks for waiting. You're on.
I'd like to...
Yes?
Hello?
Hello, you're on.
Yeah, I'd like to follow up on the question about putting, say, Pomfret and Fredonia together. Where I came from in the UK was an area the size of Chautauqua County. Making that one county instead of 2 towns and 30 villages saved an enormous amount of money without reducing any of the benefits to the people.